Question 2. So we've got, this is all to do with correlation. The first actual question is to describe the correlation shown in figure 1. There's actually two answers that will get you the marks here. The best answer is just to say no correlation, because there isn't any. But if you've said there's a weak correlation, whether it's positive or negative, they will actually give it to you, because you could sort of argue either way if you were to take one or two values out, but there's basically no correlation there. Okay, then moving on, Nadine chooses to use all the data for Beijing and draws this scatter diagram. So she's got the bit that Fred has, and then she's got all of the data, and it's starting to look like this. So having looked at that, take on these questions. So first of all, explaining in context what Nadine can infer about the relationship between P and T, there is a negative correlation but the really important bit to say is one's getting bigger, the other's getting smaller. So as temperature increases, the daily mean pressure tends to decrease. And now you get these two annoying little questions about your knowledge of the large data set. So you want to sort of study the large data set to a fair degree. There's always 1 or 2 marks in this paper. There happen to be 2 for knowing specific stuff about the large data set, and I would say it's not worth spending too much time becoming an absolute expert on it. But this first one does come up a fair bit about knowing basically values of pressure that could happen. Now it can be very high in the 900s, up to about 1030 being the absolute sort of highest pressure. So anything around about 1010 is going to be fine, but anything between 985 and 1030 you should get away with, but 1010 pretty much bang in the middle. Then, using your knowledge of the large data set, explain why it's not meaningful to look for a linear relationship between the daily mean wind speed and the Beaufort conversion and daily mean air temperature. Now, there's another set of data which tells you about what the wind speed is in numerical terms, but the Beaufort conversion just says it's either light or moderate or so on. So it's actually a qualitative thing, not a quantitative thing. And you can't find a linear relationship unless you've got quantitative data. So that's basically where you're at on that. So here's my answer, and I've shown off a bit because there was another thing that could have got to you. If you really knew the data well, then you'd know that on every single day in 2015, Beijing's wind speed is listed as light every single time. So because they're always the same value, you wouldn't be able to do it for that either.